Well, hello everyone, welcome to the channel, and in today's video we are reviewing Love and Death. If this appeals to you, stick around. So what is Love and Death? It is a true story, 7 episodes that you can find it on Binge in Australia and HBO Max in America. So this show stars Elizabeth Olsen playing Candy Montgomery. So the male actor is Jesse Plemons, and he is playing Alan. So you're probably wondering what this show is about. Well, it's about Alan and Candy having an affair, and then unfortunately things don't go well. Alan's wife gets murdered, and then Candy is the main suspect, and then a trial happens, and then from there we get to find out if she's innocent or guilty, and then the show goes from there. We are now moving into the scoring for the show. So we have 10 different categories. So first category is the plot, and I gave it an 8. Really enjoyed how it went. Started in the 80s and then went back from 2 years in 1978. Really enjoyed how they set it up, the two characters, and really enjoyed the dynamics of how the show set it up, the storyline, and really enjoyed. I think the plot's very unique and engaging, and probably the best aspect about the show, and definitely liked the plot, definitely the best. And characters, really enjoyed the characters. This gets a 9. The characters, I think, partly from the acting, I think the characters you really get engaged with the characters. The writing might embellish that, but besides that, I think the characters are really strong characters. And leading from that is the acting. The acting gets a 9 as well. I think they really cast well. They definitely chose the right acting for the roles. They give 100% performances, keep you engaged for each episode. Really strong acting performances. Entertainment factors is 6.5. I had really bored moments. Really, it's more of a emotional drama, not really any funny moments. But besides that, it's not meant to entertain you from a comedy, obviously. Visuals. Really enjoyed the opening song and the visuals with this show, but obviously it's not meant to be visually appealing. The acting and the plot is what the show does the best, and but the visuals get the job done. The pacing gets a 5.5. For me, the show really sets up in the beginning, and then have a contract and how things happen. And then for me, it really dropped the ball with the 2 final episodes. It feels really rushed. It needed one final episode, and I prefer things to end properly instead of being rushed for the sake of it. But that was their choice. And then the ending gets a 7. It is based on a true story, so the writers had to end it the way that they did. But personally, I was disappointed with the ending. I thought they could have done it a lot better, but that's what they decided to do, and the ending had already happened. Originality, this gets an 8. Can't really think of a lot of shows of true stories that religious folk have committed a sin of cheating on their partners. I really enjoyed the uniqueness of the show. And then time value, I gave it a 7. I did enjoy my time besides the ending, and personally I think they really dropped the ball with the court fact and wasting the potential with that. And target audience, this gets a 6. I think it definitely, besides if you're Elizabeth Olsen fan or a true crime drama, you're probably not going to watch this show. Final score 73% out of 100. I think it definitely does deserve that score. It is a good show, but I think the choices and stuff that they did kind of waste the ball a little bit, and it is worth watching, but not for everyone.
So moving into my score for the plot, I gave it a 7.5. I think it had a good premise, obviously being a true story. It kind of wrote itself, but I think they kept me gripped and I wanted to know more. I also made an effort not to look at what happened in real events so it wouldn't spoil it for me. So it had an interesting plot. The characters were, I think they were embellished, but they were quite good. I gave it an 8 out of 10 regardless. I think that the Keeney Montgomery character was quite unique, and I think the acting was superb, and that's what presented it. So moving to that, the acting I gave a 9 out of 10. I think Elizabeth Olsen's performance was outstanding. She really made me question whether she was sane, whether she was not, whether she was a psychopath, whether she did or didn't commit the murder. I think they did a really good job with that. Entertainment, a 7. It was entertaining enough if you like crime dramas. Could have definitely been better, but it kept me going. I would have liked to have been a little bit longer, I think, but if it was much longer, I think I would have started to tune out. So I think maybe the shortness of it kept it entertaining. Visually, I gave it an 8 out of 10. Represented the time and era it was in quite well. I enjoyed the camera works of it. Same as Jacob, I enjoyed the intro song and the way they presented that. So 8 for me. Pacing, 7. Jacob gave it a 5.5. I've gone a bit higher in the pacing. I felt that it was slow, but so it lost marks because of that, but I don't mind that it was rushed. I think that kind of helped propel it along. But in saying that, I think one extra episode could have made it just that little bit better. So that sounds conflicting, but I think that it wasn't slow, and I'd rather it be fast than slow. Ending 7.5. I don't actually know if I saw the ending coming, but then if I think long and hard about it, why would they make a show about her being guilty? People commit murders all the time. There had to be something unique that happened here to make it worth a show. I just think they didn't present it well. I wasn't sitting there on the edge of my seat. In the end, the verdict kind of felt like it was it was coming, and they just got there. Originality, same as 8. Jacob gave it an 8. It is unique and original for a true story. Obviously, it writes itself, but it's something's been presented, a story that I didn't know of, and yeah, it's just different than what I've seen before. Target audience 6.5. I think for true crime fans, I think you might actually be disappointed. I don't think it rates as high as a lot of other true crime stuff that's came out recently, so I think it is a letdown in comparison. Was it worth watching? I gave it a 6 out of 10. I'm happy I watched it. Would I watch it again? No. Would I recommend it to other people? I'd honestly find it hard to, unless they were a true crime buff that had ran out of things to watch. I'm like, here's something new. It's not going to be the best thing you've seen, but at least it's something. But other than that, I'd find it hard to recommend to anyone else. That totals in for me at 74.5%. Surprisingly higher than Jacob, because when we were talking earlier, it seemed like he liked the show a lot more than I did, but I guess numbers don't lie. So we're going to move into a spoiler discussion. If you haven't seen the show, you may not want to listen in here. It might spoil it. So let's get into it. What's the first question, Jacob?
I guess to talk about, do we think that is she guilty or not?
Well, what do you think? You tell me.
I guess it was self-defense at first, but it is hard to argue. She did stab the woman 47 times, and that's very extreme.
I'm on the same boat. I think it's murder that started as self-defense, and she had every opportunity to run, but instead she may have had a tussle, and the only way to get her off was to hit her with the axe. But I think anything beyond that was just her going crazy and committed murder. So I think she is, in fact, guilty, because you could argue that her actions were unproportional to the circumstance she was in. She simply could have defended herself and ran away. So I think so as well. I think and to also not only just finish the job and have her get dead, to go on and on and on, and that many hits with the axes, it seems far too far for me.
Do you think it was definitely biased that there were 6 female jurors and 3 males?
It could have had an impact, but in saying that, the murder victim was a female as well, and you think maybe they would have they may not have saw fondly of that, and they may have also thought her committing the act of adultery makes her a horrible person. So I don't know, given that the time and place that it occurred, whether they would have seen that favourably. Maybe males may have been more in favour of saying not guilty because they may not see the issue with it as much. I don't know. I guess it depends on the time and when it occurred.
Do you think their relationship was embellished with how easily it seemed she liked him?
Yeah, I think they played that up. I think she may have had a crush on him for a lot longer than they made out. Whether the volleyball match was what was the turning point, I don't know. And it seemed to happen all fairly quickly. And the thing as well, when they at the end of the show, they show you pictures of the characters, and when you're watching the show, they seem disproportional in terms of their attractiveness. You question why she is absolutely fixated on this man. But then when you see their pictures in real life, they're a bit more on level par. I obviously picked Elizabeth Olsen to play the main character, and she's obviously far more attractive than the person she's pretending to be. So that kind of makes a bit more sense now. But I think definitely embellished. What do you think?
Yes. Do you agree with me that they should have maybe made an episode about like the community perspective, or some sort of episode seeing like, just a different perspective, because it really didn't feel like we got like a community's perspective from what was going on.
I think it could have worked. It's something we've came accustomed to in a lot of shows where they'll chuck in a filler episode where it shows a random character or someone that crosses paths with the main character and they get their own episode just to kind of fill time. And this show didn't do that. But I think it could have worked. I do think it needed at least another episode to draw out the court case, because it kind of just felt like she went in there, everything was leaning towards she's going to 100% be found guilty, and then for no real reason they came back and said not guilty really quickly. It didn't sell us on that.
Yeah.
It felt like that to me, that the writers possibly believe that she should have went to jail, and they've made this show to try and present her in a guilty light, and where they didn't want to make out that they wanted to make out that it was a shock that she got found innocent, opposed to if you wrote it in a different perspective, you'd really want to push the point of she was innocent, she shouldn't have been put in jail, like she shouldn't go to jail, but instead they wanted to make us very much feel like she should have went to jail. I guess you'd have to do a bit of research into who the writers are and what their motivation is. Bottom line is, do you think it's worth watching? Would you really recommend it to people?
It's a hard recommendation because, like I said, target audience. It's a show that it's hard to. I don't think it's a show that's for everyone. What's unfortunate. Do
you think if you didn't watch this, you missed out?
No, not really.
I felt when I watched the trailer, I was like, I'm going to miss out on something. This is going to be really great. And now at the end, I'm kind of, well, if I knew this beforehand, I probably wouldn't have wasted my time. So I think for that, it's definitely a hard show to recommend. I really don't want to recommend it to anyone because I think I'm going to set them up for 6 to 7 hours worth of, I won't say torture, but they're probably going to be like, well, why did you know what happened? Why did you make me sit through this?
I know it's a different comparison, but look at The Last of Us. I know one's a zombie show and one's love and death, but if you didn't watch Last of Us and you watched Love and Death, I would say not watching The Last of Us is a big loss.
Yeah, for sure. There's a bit of FOMO there because The Last of Us was heavily watched and talked about by so many people. It's something you should experience, and it captivated a whole wide variety of audiences, and I think this show is pretty narrow. I think, as you said, if you're a Elizabeth Olsen fan, I don't know if there's that many people that are just devoted to her. Like, she's not in a whole lot of things. I like her, but I don't think there's people that are like obsessed with everything she does. Unless you're like a true crime person, like just honestly just ran out of things to watch. I don't know too many people that would go out of their way to see this, which is sad because it's got big stars, obviously a decent budget, and it's been promoted. So it's not like, oh, I've randomly discovered this. It's kind of in your face, so you kind of push towards to watching it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm.
Do you think if you never knew about the show, would you lose sleep over it?
No, not at all. And I think now, once the hype's kind of, I don't know if there is hype, I just saw the ads for it and got captivated by it. In saying that, the ads I kept seeing were on true crime channels. So, you know, they were pushing their target audience for sure. So I think it'll just disappear at the background, or you won't hear anything of it soon.
Do you think the show would have been better if it wasn't a true story, and it would have been better if they did their affair and then they got murdered?
I think if it wasn't a true story, yeah, there's a lot more to go with. How would you have rewrote it? What do you think would have happened if it was up to you?
If it wasn't a true story, I would have made, because they made out that the wife was not that nice, maybe that she killed Candy, and maybe the religious group goes, oh, she was possessed or something.
Yeah, my thought would have been, and like I thought the show was kind of setting up for it, that Candy got jealous when Alan said, hey, I actually want to be with my wife now. I've been to this religious like remarriage camp thing. We need to call it quits. I thought she would have maybe lost the plot and then murdered her and wanted to be with Alan, but it seemed like she didn't, which is the only thing that makes me think, well, maybe she's innocent. She didn't want to kill her. But I think she didn't go there at all with the intent to kill. She self-defended and then decided to, well, I'm going to carry on with this. But yeah, if I was to rewrite it, I reckon maybe she kills the wife and so that she can be with Alan, and maybe they actually run off together, and then like they're both kind of in on it, or he like they plan to do it together. Like that would maybe something like they go, oh, we want to be a couple. We need to get my wife out of the picture. How do we plan this murder? I'd like that. But I guess that's what you expect. That's probably a story that's been done before.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. As always, you're awesome. Like and subscribe, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.